So one thing you might be thinking about, okay, we've taken care of mobile, we've taken care of desktop, things are looking pretty good. But what about tablet, right? So if you're using Foundation 5 and if you've used Foundation 4.3 with the Foundation 5 medium grid, one thing that's nice is there's this medium grid for tablets that's been added. So the way this works by default sometimes isn't necessarily exactly what you'd want. So you'll see as I go to tablet, which is about here, I'm actually getting the mobile layout. And obviously it just continues to get smaller. So let's see if we can make this tablet user interface a little bit better, because obviously this is not going to look great on a tablet, this huge picture of a cat and just one thing. So let me jump back into the code. Okay. So just like we have our small and large, I think one way to think about the medium grid and how it's implemented is the default behavior with mobile how you want it. So in this case, it's not. And so if it's not, then you're going to want to modify it. And so you have a couple of choices. And I think the first choice is the desktop experience similar to what you want on the tablet? And so in this case, I would argue, let's at least try it and see what happens. Okay. And so all I'm going to do is mimic our large grid by adding a medium 8. And here we have a large 4. I'm going to add a medium 4. Okay, let's take a look at how that looks. All right, so we're not completely done here. So this is looking good, but one thing I forgot to do was to take care of our outer grid. Right? So we have this large 12 columns, we have this large 8 columns. So what it does by default, you can just assume that it's like this. Every time you have a large whatever, just imagine there's kind of this imaginary small 12. And so when it gets to the smaller grid, and in this case, it's also going to encompass the tablet grid, it's going to stretch it all the way across. So we want to leave that the same for small, and I'm not going to overwrite it. We can just assume that it's there, right? And I'm going to add a medium 8, right? And we're going to look for our sidebar farther down here, large 4, and I'm going to add a medium 4 as well. There we go. Now, then it becomes a question of, well, does this really work better on the tablet, or is there a better way to do it? So I'm not saying that this is the perfect thing, but let's say, for example, we want to make our sidebar a little bit wider for tablets and kind of compress those images even farther. So let's just go ahead and make a small change. So let's try doing a medium 6, and we'll just do like a 50% split, and we'll change this medium 8 to a medium 6 as well. There we go. So I'm not saying that this is the perfect example of how you want to do it on tablet, but I just want to show that we can have kind of 3 separate states. And so in this case, we have our full desktop, and this is where we started, right? By creating the sidebar 2/3 split and another nested 2/3 split that runs the opposite way, right? Here with our 4 and then our 8 columns. And then we went to mobile, where we changed to this smaller image stacked on top of the text. And then for our tablet, we created this 50% split, which maybe takes a little bit better, uses the real estate that's available a little bit better. Most tablets are 768 wide, but you have to remember too, unless you're looking at it specifically, it could be used in portrait mode. In portrait mode, it's going to look a lot more like this, which actually this is going to be a much better interface, I think, for portrait mode. So should work good on tablets regardless of the orientation. The only thing is maybe here you have a little bit extra white space, and that is it. This is kind of like a quick introduction to using grids with Foundation, Foundation 5 specifically, but remember this is going to apply to any sort of grid-based framework and responsive framework. So if you're using Foundation, if you're using Bootstrap, it should really work the same. The only thing that's going to be different is the syntax. Okay? Hope this was useful, and have a great day.